Okay, I'd like to start with our land acknowledgement. We acknowledge that we are in the traditional territory of Anishinaabe peoples in the Williams and Huron-Robinson Treaties areas. We recognize the long history of First Nations and Métis peoples on this land and show respect to them today. We acknowledge our neighbors, the Watamodhawks, and the First Nations of Moose Deer, Shawniga, Wasauksing, Magnetawan, Hendley Inlet, Nipissing, and the Dokis. In our learnings from our October 21st meeting with Chief Warren Tobogganong and CAO Adam Good, I learned to stress the importance of accepting our responsibility to take care of Mother Earth, her plants, her animals, and our shared peoples. We will look to each other and the elders of both nations as a source of inspiration, guidance, and the living memory of our communities. We have much to learn about the stewardship of our planet to ensure that the decisions we make today will take into consideration the future of our children and that of their children's children. So with that, I'd like to call the meeting to order and ask for approval of the agenda. You will have received an addendum this afternoon with some pieces of correspondence related to item 7C. So with that, may I have the approval of the agenda? All in favor? Thank you. You can use your hand. You don't need you to use your little yellow hands to vote. Just use those when you're asking to speak, if you could, and just show of hands is fine for most of our motions. Is there any disclosure of pecuniary interest or general nature thereof?
Yes, Madam Mayor, I do. I wish to declare I may have a conflict of interest, pecuniary interest, related to the following matters: 7B, DPS-PL-2022-176-R-2022-0025-H ends as our families have mutual business interests. Thank you.
Councillor Finson, you're coming and going. Is that a problem at your end?
I'm just trying to get my sound. I think I'm good now.
Yeah, we can hear you.
Thank
Okay, thanks. Okay, thank you, Councillor Finson, or Councillor Fellner. And I have 3 sets of minutes that we're going to approve today. I have a motion that the Council of the Corporation of the Township of Seguin does hereby adopt the minutes of the inaugural meeting of Council held on November 21st, 2022 as circulated. Could I have a motion from Councillor Adams?
I so move.
And seconded by Councillor Bazinski?
I second that.
All in favor? Thank you. And I have a motion that the Council of the Corporation of the Township of Seguin does hereby adopt the minutes of the regular meeting of Council held November 28th, 2022 as circulated. Could I have a motion from Councillor Getty?
I move that motion.
And seconded by Councillor Fellner.
And second that.
All in favor? Thank you. And one more. I have a motion that the Council of the Corporation of the Township of Seguin does hereby adopt the minutes of the special meeting of Council held December 1st, 2022 as circulated. Could I have a motion from Councillor Collins?
Also move your motion, Mayor.
Seconded by Councillor Finson.
I second that.
All in favor? Thank you. And I have a motion that the Council of the Corporation of the Township of Seguin does hereby adjourn the regular meeting to hold a public meeting for the following matters. Consent application numbers B 2022-0031-H and B 2022-0032-H and zoning bylaw amendment application number R 2022-0028-H for Davidson, and zoning bylaw amendment application number R 2022-0020 H and official plan amendment application number OPA number 11-2022-0001-H for Renault at Clear Lake Road and Lake Joseph Road. Could I have a motion from Councillor Adams
So move.
and seconded by Councillor Bazinski?
I second that.
All in favor of going into a public meeting? Thank you. Council will now hold public meetings for proposed consent, zoning bylaw amendment, and official plan amendment applications. In accordance with the Planning Act, council will consider all matters placed before it prior to granting a consent, passing a zoning bylaw amendment, or making its decision on a proposed amendment to the official plan. Anyone wishing to receive notice of adoption of a proposed official plan amendment or the passing of a zoning bylaw amendment and who has not submitted such a request in writing should provide your full name and address to the clerk. No one other than the prescribed persons may appeal an application under the provisions of the Planning Act. If they do not make oral submissions at a public meeting or make written submissions to the Council of the Corporation of the Township of Seguin prior to the decision of council, then the Ontario Land Tribunal may dismiss the appeal. The purpose of consent application numbers B 2022-0031-H and B 2022-0032-H for Davidson is to create two new lots, both on Macaulay Road. The purpose of zoning bylaw amendment application number R 2022-002H 8-H for Davidson is to rezone both of the proposed Severs lots from the existing rural zone to rural residential zone in order to comply with the minimum area and frontage requirements of the zoning bylaw. I now ask the clerk to state the method by which the notice of the meeting was provided and the dates on which that notice was provided.
Notice of the public meeting was provided by posting the property and by regular mail on November 21st, 2022. Notice was therefore considered to be provided in accordance with the requirements of the Planning Act.
Has the township received any correspondence with respect to these applications?
No correspondence has been received.
Has anyone registered to speak in favor of, or in opposition to these applications?
Mark and Joyce Davidson, the applicants, have registered to speak to these applications, and I believe Mr. Davidson is present.
Mr. Davidson, are you there?
Yes.
Okay. Do you have anything to say about the application?
As I noted when we registered, the purpose of registration was in the event that there are any questions that we could field them, but otherwise the work has been done wonderfully by Lauren, so we'll leave it with the report that's there.
Lauren, do you have anything to add to the report that we have in our agenda package?
Thank you, Your Worship. I'd just like to add that at the time of staff's visit, we did note that there were a few accessory structures on the proposed retained lands. The owner has now removed those accessory structures, but I'd be happy to try and answer any questions that council may have. Thank you.
Thank you. Does council have any questions? I see none. So we move on. Thank you very much, Mr. Davidson, for attending.
Thank you.
The purpose of zoning bylaw amendment application number R 2022-0020-H for Renault is to rezone the lands from a rural zone to a C3 exception zone to permit a motor vehicle sales establishment and a motor vehicle repair facility. The purpose of official plan amendment application number OPA number 11-2022-0001-H for Renault is to create a special site-specific policy to permit a small-scale commercial and light industrial lot is within the 500 meters from the shoreline designation. I now ask the clerk to state the method by which the notice of the meeting was provided and the dates on which that notice was provided.
Notice of the public meeting was provided by posting the property by regular mail and posted to the township's website on November 21st, 2022. Notice was therefore considered to provide in accordance with requirements of the Planning Act.
Has the township received any correspondence with respect to these applications?
Correspondence has been received from the Ministry of Transportation, Ontario.
Has anyone registered to speak in favor of or in opposition to these applications?
No one has registered to speak to these applications.
But I do see Director LG there. Do you want to speak to it a little bit, Taylor?
Sure thing. And just a note, we just received a letter of objection from a neighboring property owner to the north, Mr. Harris. He noted that this could lead to a property value drop. The trees are a sound buffer from the highway and the rail line. The nighttime lights from the business could be disruptive, as well as noise from the business. Worry about oil, gas, antifreeze, and other contaminants leaking into the ground. More crimes and break-ins, and there'll be a visual eyesore taking away from the property value. So that just came in. So sorry, Craig, I couldn't let you know. The purpose of the application is to change the designation to permit automobile dealership and repair facility. Since it is within 500 meters of the shoreline designation, an amendment would be required to the official plan.
Does council have any questions?
Yeah, I do.
Counselor Fellner?
I'm looking for my yellow hand. Taylor, the ministry has submitted a letter that doesn't, it says that they're not allowing an access on Lake Joseph Road. Is that, am I reading that correctly?
Through your worship, that is correct. And they're also noting that it doesn't have enough frontage within their sphere of influence. So regardless of whether the entrance is on Lake Joseph Road or Clear Lake Road, they're opposed to it, and at this stage would object to it.
Right, okay, well, there's no real good entrance spot on Clear Lake Road, because it's pretty much, it's that hill, that first hill coming off the road. So I don't know how you get an entrance off that. It's not a very good hill in the winter as it is. Okay, thank you.
I see no other questions. Thank you. Council will now close the public meeting for Planning Act applications and reconvene to the regular meeting. I have a motion that the public meeting held for the following matters is hereby closed and the regular meeting is hereby reconvened. I have to read all these. Consent application numbers B 2022-0031-H and B 2022-0032-H and zoning bylaw amendment application number R 2022-0028-H for Davidson and zoning bylaw amendment application number R 2022-0020-H and official plan amendment application number OPA number 11-2022-0001-H for Renault, Clear Lake Road and Lake Joseph Road. Could I have a motion from Councillor Getty
Make that motion.
and seconded by Councillor Fellner?
Second that.
All in favor of moving out of the public meeting? Thank you. Okay. Okay. I have a motion that the Council of the Corporation of the Township of Seguin does hereby grant provisional approval to the consent application numbers B 2022-0031-H and B 2022-0032-H for Davidson, subject to the conditions set out in the decisions. Could I have a motion from Councillor Collins
I so move your motion, Mayor.
and seconded by Councillor Finson?
I second that.
All in favor of approving this for Davidson? Thank you. And I have the second part of this, that bylaw number 2022-137, being a bylaw to amend Township of Seguin zoning bylaw number 2006-125, property roll number 4903-010-004-03600, application number R 2022-0028 H for 64 Macaulay Road is hereby deemed to have been read a first, second, and third time and passed by council. Could I have a motion from Councillor Adams
I so move.
and seconded by Councillor Bazinski?
I second that.
All in favor? Thank you. Council will now consider the following road allowance applications. Shore Road Allowance Application Number RAS-2021-0025-F for Stamper on McNutt Lake, bylaw number 2022-129. Shore Road Allowance Application Number RAS-2022-0002-H for Dinsmore on Lake Rosso, bylaw number 2022-130. Shoreline Allowance Application Numbers RAS-2021-0004-F, RAS 2021-0005-F, and RAS 2021-0006-F for Spray at Salmon Lake, bylaw number 2022-133. Shore Road Allowance Application Number RAS 2021-0018-H for Metcalf on Little Lake Whitefish Lake, bylaw number 2022-132. Have any written objections been received related to these applications?
No written objections have been received.
Has anyone registered to speak in favor to these applications?
No one has registered to speak to these applications.
Lauren, do you want to speak to the first one for Stamper?
Sure, thank you, Your Worship. So the owners at 52 Caruthers Road are looking to purchase their shore road allowance abutting their property on McNutt Lake. So shore road allowance is the 20-meter strip of land that borders the body of water. Seguin Township owns these original road allowances, which have not yet been closed and stopped up. However, provincial legislation permits municipalities to sell these to the abutting owners. This one is pretty straightforward, but I'd be happy to answer any questions that council may have.
Does council have any questions for Lauren? I will read the motion that bylaw number 2022-129, being a bylaw to close, stop up, and sell a portion of the original shore road allowance, application number RAS-2021-0025-F for Stamper, is hereby deemed to have been read a first, second, and third time and passed by council. Could I have a motion from Councillor Getty
I will make that motion.
and seconded by Councillor Fellner?
I'll second that.
All in favor? Thank you. The same person? So Lauren, do you want to explain 6B a little bit? I have two motions associated with it.
Thank you, Your Worship. So this is another shore road allowance application, this time for the owners at 91 Little Morgan Bay Road, which is on Lake Rosso. There is a second part of the application, which is a deeming bylaw. So deeming bylaws are required anytime that the property is on a plan of subdivision and will ultimately allow for the shore road allowance to merge with the subject lands. I'd be happy to answer any questions that council may have.
Are there any questions from council? No. So Sorry, thank you. Sorry, my mic wasn't on. I have a motion that bylaw number 2022-130, being a bylaw to close, stop up and sell a portion of the original shore road allowance, application number RAS 2022-0002 H for Dinsmore is hereby deemed to have been read a first, second, and third time and passed by council. Could I have a motion from Councillor Collins
Also move the motion, Mayor.
and seconded by Councillor Finson?
I second that motion.
All in favor? Thank you. And now the deeming part of that.
Mhm.
I have a motion that bylaw number 2022-131, being a bylaw to deem lot 6 of Plan 194 pursuant to section 50, bracket 4 of the Planning Act, not to be on a plan of subdivision, property roll number 4903-010-002-04700, file number D 2022-0001-H for Dinsmore is hereby deemed to have been read a first, second, and third time and passed by council. Could I have a motion from Councillor Adams
I so move.
and seconded by Councillor Bazinski?
I second that.
All in favor? Thank you. Okay, I have 4 pieces associated with this one. So I'm going to turn it over to Lauren to explain all these pieces.
Thank you, Your Worship. So these owners own actually 3 waterfront properties on Salmon Lake Road and are looking to purchase the shore allowance abutting their properties on Salmon Lake. I will note that one of the properties does abut a public boat launch. However, the sale will have no negative impacts on the boat launch. It's far enough away that it won't have any impacts. The 3 additional parts to this is that each lot is on a plan of subdivision. So again, deeming bylaws are required in order to merge the shore allowance with the subject lands. Again, I'd be happy to try and answer any questions that council may have.
Does council have any questions? Nope. Okay, here we go for a reading marathon. I have a motion that bylaw number 2022-133, being a bylaw to close, stop up, and sell a portion of original shore road allowance, application numbers RAS 2021-0004-F, RAS 2021-0005-F, and RAS 2021-0006-F for spray is hereby deemed to have been read a first, second, and third time and passed by council. Could I have a motion from Councillor Getty
I'll move that motion.
and seconded by Councillor Fellner?
I'll second that.
Okay. So now I think what we have is 3 deeming bylaws, right?
Well, we got to vote
Oh,
on it.
sorry, we need a vote. Sorry, all in favor. Sorry, I'm too fast in my reading. Thank you. Okay, now we have 3 separate deeming for each of the lots. I have a motion that bylaw number 2022-134, being a bylaw to deem lot 43 of M-316 pursuant to section 50 bracket 4 of the Planning Act, not to be on a plan of subdivision, property roll number 4903-030-005-19801, file number D 2021-0003-F for spray is hereby deemed to have been read a first, second, and third time and passed by council. Could I have a motion from Councillor Collins
I so move the motion, Mayor.
and seconded by Councillor Finson?
I second that.
All in favor on the first lot? Thank you. And we move to the second lot. I have a bylaw that number 2022-141 being a bylaw to deem lot 44 of M-316 pursuant to section 50(4) of the Planning Act not to be on a plan of subdivision. Property roll number 4903-030-005-19802. File number D 2021-0003-F for spray is hereby deemed to have been read a first, second, and third time and passed by council. Could I have a motion from Councillor Adams
I so move.
and seconded by Councillor Bazinski?
I second that.
All in favor? Thank you. And the third one for the sprays. A motion that bylaw number 2022-142 being a bylaw to deem lot 47 of M-316 pursuant to section 50(4) of the Planning Act not to be on a plan of subdivision, property roll number 4903-030-005-19900, file number D 2021-0003-F for spray is hereby deemed to have been read a first, second, and third time and passed by council. Could I have a motion from Councillor Getty
I will put forward that motion.
and seconded by Councillor Fellner?
I'll second that.
All in favor? Okay, I have a motion that bylaw number 2022-132 being a bylaw to close, stop up, and sell a portion of the original shore road allowance application number RAS 2021-0018-H for Metcalf is hereby deemed to have been read a first, second, and third time and passed by council. Could I have a motion from Councillor Collins?
I so move the motion, Mayor.
Could I have a second from Councillor Finson?
I second that.
All in favor? Thank you. Are there anybody got questions? No? Great. Thank you. That is our shore road allowances today. My
Oh,
iPad's turning off faster than I'm used to. I have a motion that Council of the Corporation of the Township of Seguin does hereby receive the staff reports as presented on the agenda for the December 12th, 2022 meeting of council. Could I have a motion from Councillor Adams
I so move.
and seconded by Councillor Bazinski?
I second that.
All in favor of receiving the staff reports? Thank you. Okay, I think we go first to Taylor. Remind that Councillor Fellner, yes, is not to participate in this part of the meeting. I'll turn it over to you, Director Algie.
Thank you, Your Worship. This is just the bylaw recommended for approval by staff for the last application we had on ends, which was the public meeting the other week. They would like to build a guest cabin within the existing frame of the boathouse, and they need an exemption from the bylaw because they also wish to finalize a guest cabin within their existing garage. Upon a site inspection, it was really obvious that the garage is hidden from the lake. It's recessed and blasted into the landscape, so it's behind the primary dwelling. So there shouldn't be any character impacts or anything of that nature, and it's recommended the bylaw be passed.
Thank you. Does anybody have any questions for Director Algie? Okay, I have a motion that bylaw number 2022-135 being a bylaw to amend Township of Seguin zoning bylaw number 2006-125 property roll number 4903-010-007-00120, application number R 2022-0025-H for ends is hereby deemed to have been read a first, second, and third time and passed by council. Could I have a motion from Councillor Getty
I'll move that motion.
and seconded by Councillor Collins?
I so move.
All in favor? Thank you. And I believe, Taylor, this is yours again. Do you want to explain it before I read the motion?
Certainly, Your Worship. This is a request for an exemption to the shoreline bylaws to permit a patio, or sorry, not a patio, access pathway down to the shoreline. The bottom left-hand picture shows a rock outcrop, which loosely corresponds to the X on the site plan in figure 3. That's the area proposed to be blasted that they're aware of. And they wish to build a 2-meter wide staircase made of granite down to the shoreline.
Thank you. Does anybody have any questions of Taylor? Okay, I will read the motion that the Council of the Corporation of the Township of Seguin does hereby grant an exemption for application number E01-2022-0006-H for Himmelfarb at 17 Miko Lane pursuant to section 5.1 of bylaw number 2008-104, being a bylaw to prohibit or regulate blasting in areas of the township, and section 5.1 of bylaw number 2008-105, being a bylaw to prohibit or regulate the placing or dumping or removal of fill in areas of the Township of Seguin, subject to the conditions as outlined in the staff report number DPS-PL-2022-173, attached as Schedule A to this resolution. Could I have a motion from Councillor Finson?
I so move.
And seconded by Councillor Adams.
I'll second that.
All in favor? Thank you. And I think, Taylor, is this you and or Valerie on short-term rentals?
It would be both of us. We co-authored it and have been working together on it. So we'll just we each have our own areas here. So we, depending on the question, a different one of us will answer.
Okay, do you want to explain the report?
Sure thing. So this was just an update report on the status of the short-term rental results. We got over 2,000 responses to the survey. We had a lot of written responses as well, which included the text box in the survey. Those weren't included because it ended up adding up to about 4,000 pages. So that was a bit too much for the council report. But it's just being presented with the status of the results and the questions asked.
Where can those comments be seen by council when they want to see them?
We have them in-house in our filing system. So we might be able to share them by OneDrive as well.
Okay, I think we should be able to access them if we can electronically. Councillor Finson, you have a question.
My question is, when I read it over, now maybe I just didn't read it thoroughly enough. I didn't see anything about commercial businesses being on the lake on residential properties. I didn't see that question, and I didn't see that information if that question was asked, because my big problem with the short-term rentals is the commercialization of it, running a resort next to a residential property. That's my, and I didn't see that anywhere. It might be there. I just maybe didn't see it.
Valerie or Taylor, can you respond to that?
There was no particular question in regards to the commercialization of the report. However, commercialization, sorry, of the shoreline. The way it was framed around was the use of residential properties as either commercial or residential. It's more or less short-term rentals. So that could be, I think that's the language most people speak of. So that's why at the end we had the question on the options or what the concerns are.
Yeah, I understand, but part of that whole short-term rentals was regulation, and 34% or whatever it was in favor of some kind of regulation. 33% was in favor of strengthening the bylaw, no short-term rentals. But there was no mention of, like, because if you're making $60,000 a week, you don't care if you get a $500 fine. Like, what are the fines going to be? $100,000? I'm just saying that if somebody decides to go that road, it doesn't help my lake. It doesn't help my area where the prices are so high that fines are not going to matter. It's not going to matter if they get a fine for and $50 or $100 to pay for a permit. It's not going to matter. So that was my question. I just didn't see it. I thought maybe I missed it, because there was a lot of questions. And so I just wondered if anybody knew, but thank you.
Councillor Finson, I do want to point out that the entire questionnaire was approved by council before it was released. So we did have an opportunity to add questions.
I did talk about it. I've talked about it at every single meeting we've had. Every single meeting, this is what I say. And everybody knows that, because everybody's heard me say it. This is not the first time I've said it. And maybe I don't know. I mentioned it. I know I mentioned it when we redid the thing, but it's still, it's not there, because it's the only thing I have a problem with is the people running commercial businesses on private, like on residential properties. My problem is that if I have a residential property next door to somebody who has a property that they're only going to rent, they're not going to live there, they're just making whatever they can make off of it, it's a problem. I don't, whether they're noisy or not, the lake, the environment, and it talks a lot about environment on that report, but the environment requires that we can't have 22 people every single week renting a property on a residential property on the lake. That's like, it is a big concern. It's probably the only concern, other than the bylaws being enforced. My big concern is it's more and more people. And if it ever goes that way, there will be more people doing the same thing. I mean, they're having that problem everywhere, right?
I think
Anyway.
it's incredibly important, Valerie and Taylor, that you record these comments. This report is for information only.
Yeah, I know.
But hearing from each of the councillors needs to be recorded in what your next steps and recommendations are. So you've heard from Councillor Finson, and I see every other councillor would like to weigh in on this. So make sure that the councillor comments frame what your next recommendation will be. Councillor Bazinski, you're next.
Thank you, Your Worship. A couple of things. One is we did receive today correspondence from a number of lake associations, and I just would hope that when Taylor and staff come up with their next report, that these comments are incorporated into the report, because they're expressing some concern about the bias that may have been in the questionnaire. So that would be the one thing that I'd like to say, and I think it would be worthwhile, because there are a number of new councillors here. I think it'd be worthwhile to get everyone's position on this, because and I know I've talked with our planning director, and there are a lot of issues in adjoining municipalities, Oromadonti, but also in Huntsville and other areas, and we really need to look at this very seriously. And Councillor Finson did bring up a good point that if we're going to keep the existing bylaws and enforce them, we have to look at costs, because certainly for the Muskoka Lakes, costs could be astronomical, but even on the inland lakes, I think you could have a reasonable deterrent in terms of fines. I don't know what would happen on the Muskoka Lakes. They're a different entity entirely, but anyway, I think, I don't know, I think before another report comes out, definitely we might want to address this, the whole issue and where people are standing on it, because there are 3 new councillors. Thank you.
Yes, every counselor will have an opportunity to weigh in today. And the next step in this will be that with our input and with the survey results, staff will come back with a recommendation for council to evaluate. The correspondence that Councillor Bazinski referred to is in your addendum package, all of it. So you can see that. Councillor Fellner, you're next.
Thank you, Mayor. I think the one thing I would like to see in a future report is a little more detail on what could be accomplished from beefing up the quality of life bylaws, specifically what other municipalities have done and what type of fines could be levied. I think there needs to be a deterrent for people to act in a responsible manner with the use of their properties. This may be, a method to do that, along with a few others. But I think that we need, we need some more information, as far as I'm concerned, in that aspect. In option 7C, I have the same concerns as Councillor Vincent does. We don't have any effective tools at the moment to shut down a bad operation. I think the existing councillors have all experienced the pain of having a bad operator or a bad renter in our wards. And virtually nothing we can do on a short term to stop it, and we need to have those tools. So I'd like some more work done on the quality of life bylaw aspect, and perhaps some factual, what other surrounding municipalities are doing to. I mean, we've been around this thing, I don't know how many times the last 4 years, and we don't seem to be getting it. So those are my comments.
Thank you. Councillor Getty, you're next.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Before I get started on some of the points, I'd request, Taylor, would it be possible, I know that you have the comment sections of the survey. Would it be possible in the packages that you put together for council members to include any other independent letters that were received by the township as well? Because I know there was a number of them that were sent either directly to councillors or to the mayor or to staff as a whole. So I think that'd be beneficial to have all of those to put it into the hopper for assessing where we're going to go forward as a council.
Can do.
In regards to the short-term rentals, I agree with Councillor Fellner. I think that there has to be a review of the short-term or the quality of life bylaws in Seguin, and we have to look at, they have to go hand in hand, addressing both the short-term rentals and the quality of life impact of those rentals, legal or illegal, on other residents within the community. And I do agree with Councillor Fellner that we have to put some real teeth in it. As Councillor Finson says, a $500 or $1,000 fine for quality of life infraction when you're renting your property for $50,000 or $60,000 a week is really just the inconvenience of having to write the check. Sarnia, for their short-term rentals, they are banned in Sarnia. And Sarnia's offense table is $25,000 for the first offense, $50,000 for every subsequent offense. So if we have a problem location, you're looking at potentially $125,000 in fines over a 3-day weekend period. And I think that in this situation, there has to be some teeth in it. I also think that we have to look at not only looking to target enforcement against the offender, but we have to look at a joint charge or a subsequent charge against the owner of the property. One of the problem locations that we had in on Lake Rossel this year was in fact not a short-term rental, but the same problems that are occurring at many of the short-term rentals. And how that was addressed was by laying a charge not only on some of the offenders on certain occasions, but also laying charges against the owner of the property. And it was when the charges were laid against the owner of the property that the problem was resolved. So I think that the short-term rental issue, we need a definition of what we consider to be a short-term rental. Right now, they are illegal in Seguin. My opinion is that they should be illegal. Man, Councillor Brzezinski has asked for opinions. I will give my opinion. I think that anything that is rented for commercial purposes or anything that's rented for less than a week is a short-term rental. People have been renting responsibly in this township for decades. And families have been coming here. It's how they get to experience the cottage environment. People can't afford those. Most people can't afford cottages. And young families can't afford to purchase their own property. I don't agree with licensing, but I do agree with strong enforcement. And one of the benefits that we have moving forward in 2023 is with the new full-time bylaw enforcement officers that we have, and them working in conjunction with the OPP, I think can be very effective on deterring the problem locations that we have. And I would like to see more information come back relative to what has been successful in other jurisdictions. So.
Thank you. Taylor, just to respond a little bit to Councillor Getty's request, I have a huge file of letters on short-term rentals that I will deliver to you. I think you will need to set up a drive somewhere where we can access all of the comments from the research and the letters that have been received over the last 4 years and maybe more.
Mayor, will this be like the miracle on 34th Street where the post office comes in and delivers the letters to Santa?
Almost, but it'll make my drawer a whole lot emptier if I hand them all over to Taylor and Valerie. But they've been accumulating over 4 years.
Thank you.
Councillor Adams, you're next.
Good. I agree a lot with Greg Getty's comments. They were great. I also heard from Otter Lake ratepayers, and I also heard from Otter Lake and Rankin Lake, sorry. And during the campaign, I think this was one of the most asked questions, was about short-term rentals. And my thoughts on that is I disagree with them. Short-term rentals is 7 days and less. And we have the bylaw, and they should be enforcing the bylaw, because right now we have no concrete solution as far as solving the problem right now, as far as I'm concerned. It's something that's going to have to be looked into a lot further. I don't agree with short term, because I'm going to use an example of next door was rented, and they shot golf balls at my kids in the water. So I'm in total disagreement with short-term rentals. We got to have something a lot more concrete. I don't know how we're going to do it. Because even if you get rid of the short-term rentals, the long-term rentals are going to try and move into the short-term rental category, and I don't think that would work. So we either have to go one way or the other. We have to get rid of it altogether or license it. And I don't believe in license. I think it should be eliminated altogether. Thank you.
Councillor Collins.
Oh, thank you, Mayor. When I seen the percentages and the numbers, when I reviewed the highlights of the survey, there were more red lights flashing than in Amsterdam. Isn't it ironic? I thought that there was more residents responding to this survey percentage-wise than voted in our 22-23 municipal election. It's obvious to me the mail-in survey could, without any difficulty, been duplicated at least more than once and possibly twice. Unfortunately, it will be very difficult, in fact, impossible to legitimize a random survey. To legitimize the numbers, there should have been a roll number attached to each survey. One roll number, one survey. We really need to be careful with the results of the survey because we can't quantify the numbers and legitimize the survey. That's all I have to say.
Thank you very much. I see hands still up from Councillor Adams, Getty, and Bazinski. Do you have something different to say than you said before?
I do.
Yeah.
Councillor Getty?
Sorry, and actually I'll be quick. My question is for Taylor as well. Taylor, I just want to confirm that I'm informed rightly. I had received information that the Ontario Land Tribunal had said that a waterfront property that was rented full-time, year-round, open for commercial rental, was deemed to be a commercial property. Could you confirm if that is or isn't, or could I bother you to find out through the proper channels?
That's referring to the Oro Medante case. That OLT decision was since referred to divisional court because it was appealed by the township. My understanding of that case was, and the media press coverage on that is a bit confusing because depending on which angle you're viewing it from, you can almost read it going two ways. But I believe the OLT decision in that case, when I last checked, noted that they couldn't explicitly prohibit them because it didn't take into account ones that had been existing for quite a long period of time. But that is something that we can look into further. I do have a lot of the files on my computer, so I can forward them to you if you'd like.
And just if there are any other jurisdictions in the province that have taken that same position.
Okay.
Thank you.
Councillor Bazinski, you have something different to say?
Yes, I do. I'd just like to remind everyone that we do have a zoning bylaw. And if you look at the zoning bylaw and the shoreline residential use does not permit commercial uses. And that needs to be taken into consideration because I believe we do have the tools to enforce the what we need to do already if you look at the zoning bylaw. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And Councillor Adams, you have something to add?
Sorry, no. I forgot to take my hand away.
Thank you. Taylor and Valerie, do you have any questions for council? Okay, well, we know it's a divisive issue, but we do need to take a stand. So it's time for a recommendation. We're moving on to Tom and Public Works. Is Tom here? Tom, before I read the bylaw, do you want to explain item 70? The bylaw,
This is the
sidewalks?
Yes, through your worship and members of council, good to see everyone. Not sure if it's an easy one or a hard one to follow that report, but this one should bring some good news. Public Works has decided to do the sidewalks, plow the sidewalks, maintain the sidewalks in the village of Rosso. It adds a level of control to the sidewalk clearing, limit some liability, and basically it's a win-win. There's a school, there's the bakery, it's just good for the community. We start plowing the roads, and people have been asking for it for a while, and we thought, what better time than now? So that's short and long of it.
So I will read I have a motion that bylaw number 2022-148, being a bylaw to repeal bylaw number 2019-023, being a bylaw to temporarily close the sidewalks in the village of Rosso, commencing on November 1st of each year until and including April 30th of the next year following, is hereby deemed to have been read a first, second, and third time and passed by council. Could I have a motion from Councillor Getty
Move that motion.
and seconded by Councillor Fellner?
I'll second that.
Does anybody have any questions for Director McLeod? Councillor Collins? Oh, we need you to put your
Yes,
microphone.
thank you, Mayor. This, of course, excludes Highway 141, correct? That's a municipal highway, correct?
The Seguin Township of Seguin is actually responsible for the maintenance of the sidewalks along the 141. That's part of the Crown has designated that as part of the township's responsibility. Believe it or not, there is in my previous report years ago, I should have attached it, so my apologies. There was some verbiage in there speaking to the the responsibility that the township has of that sidewalk, even though it is an MTO corridor. So we are maintaining the sidewalks along the 141.
Yes, but we didn't build them.
That's correct. I
think,
went up
Tom,
and
there
down
might
through
be-
the MTO.
Yeah, I think that I'd like to see something from the MTO if we're going to take a liability on those on those sidewalks that we don't own.
If I was in front of my computer, I could
It's
pull it
the
up in
ministry
the
as far as I'm
next
concerned.
15 seconds. I agree. I fought tooth and nail with the MTO until they actually presented me with the actual Transportation Act line saying that municipalities all across Ontario are responsible for sidewalks, unless there's another agreement in place, but there is no other agreement, that we are in fact responsible as a township, liability, repairs for the sidewalks. It baffles me, but there is legislative wording to that. And if you'd like to see the act, I can send it to you and highlight it to you and give you an excerpt of what it means. So I have no problem sending that.
Yes, because I have no problem at all doing sidewalks in the village, in the part of the village. But when it comes to the 141, we're taking on a big liability there. And like I said, we didn't build the sidewalks, and that's part of the Ministry of Transportation's responsibility as far as I'm concerned, and always has been as far as I'm concerned.
Okay, I think Director McLeod has offered to send you the act that basically gives us no choice, I think. Councillor Finson, you have your hand up.
I just wanted to say that that was my understanding as well, that the MTO is only responsible for doing curb to curb. The sidewalks were built by them, but we are responsible for them in every single township. As a matter of fact, I heard that at Ontario Good Roads, when I was looking to have them plowed, they explained to me what the best thing to do was. And the best thing to do was not to close the sidewalks. Their recommendation was to plow the sidewalks and just do that. It's safer for everybody and it's a better idea. And I asked, my question to them was about MTO roads. And that's where I got that information, that the MTO is only responsible for curb to curb. Once sidewalks are in, they belong to the township. So that was just that's just what I knew, Ted, that's what I was told at the time.
Councillor Bazinski.
Yes, just a quick comment that, and I have no idea how the roads are going to be plowed, but putting a bit of sand on after the plow is something that's done in Aurelia. I know that the city plows all the sidewalks and they have a machine that goes by, drops some sand afterwards. And it doesn't have to happen on all the occasions, but typically you can't plow all the snow off with a machine, and you want to be cognizant of any potential to develop ice. So I would suggest to remove the liability to a large degree. If a bit of sand is put down after the plowing, that might be worthwhile. And I stand open to, any questions.
Thank you very much. The CAO would like to weigh in here.
Thank you, Worship. Just to reiterate some positioning when it comes to minimum maintenance standards. The Municipal Act does define the minimum maintenance standards for all traveled portions of the road, which do include sidewalks as well. So there are standards of care that are required by the municipality with respect to condition of sidewalks. So not only plowing, but material application, et cetera. So for council's benefit, we do have an obligation to meet those minimum maintenance standards. Sorry to jump in, Tom, but just trying to throw a helping hand here, that that is something that we are governed by the provincial legislation defining those levels of service. So just thought I'd offer that. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And Councillor Adams, you have a comment.
Just a question for Tom. What type of equipment are you going to be using to do the sidewalks? Is it going to be the same like Prairie Sand is, where you can clear it and sand it at the same time, and you're doing everything at once? Or what kind of machinery are you going to get?
We just have a tractor, a little small Kubota tractor right now, which fits the varying widths of sidewalks in Rossville right now. So is it the forever piece of equipment? We're trying that out right now. And then just to touch on Councillor Bazinski's comment about the salt sand, there is actually a spreader on the back of the tractor, which does provide that service. So so far, the time that we've been out to test run it, it has worked well with no issues. So I'm happy to report that back.
That's good.
Thank you very much. And I would like to say that I have been the recipient of a whole lot of compliments, and I had to accept them on Tom's behalf before this came before council, because I didn't know we were plowing this year. The residents, the students are very happy. So I hope we can keep it up. So we have a motion.
SMI.
Oh,
Thank you.
we have a motion on the floor. All in favor of rescinding the bylaw that closed the sidewalks during the winter? Thank you. And Tom, you're still on. Do you want to explain what a significant weather event is? And then I'll read the motion.
For sure. Thank you. To kind of circle back to when Jason popped on there, there's a minimum maintenance standard that we have to follow. Now, if there's a big significant weather event and some of our, for example, drivers get stuck coming into work, there may be a potential that may take a little bit longer to clean up and wait for the event to be over. This just gives me or us the designation of declaring a significant weather event, which postpones the actual time frame allowable for us to go plow and clear the roads and make it safe. Just a housekeeping issue, in my opinion. I have a feeling it may happen in the next few years, so it's good exercise to practice and to have in our back pocket in the event that it's just an extreme. I mean, we're in a snow belt, so it's bound to happen that a major snow event will come across. And it doesn't have to be a snow event; it could be in the summer as well. A few years ago in 2017, I believe we had those It was downburst that really put a strain on the whole area here. We were able to tackle it within a timely fashion, but I mean, it was close to, an example where declaring a significant event would have applied here.
Very much. So I'm going to read the motion. We have a motion that bylaw number 2022-149, being a bylaw to delegate authority to the Director of Public Works or their designate to declare a significant weather event, is hereby deemed to have been read a first, second, and third time and passed by council. Could I have a motion by Councillor Collins, sorry,
I so move your motion, Mayor.
and seconded by Councillor Vincent?
I second that.
Does anybody have any questions for Tom?
No.
All in favor? Thank you. And I think we're going to be calling on Dominique next. I have a motion that as per the recommendation of staff report number CS-FC-2022-005, the Council of the Corporation of the Township of Seguin does hereby accept the request for proposal from ERA Architects, Inc., and award the RFP number 2022-011 Rosso Memorial Hall Master Plan to ERA Architects, Inc. for the amount of $75,000 plus HST. Could I have a motion from Councillor Adams, please?
I so move.
And seconded by Councillor Bazinski.
I second that.
And Dominique, do you want to tell us a little bit about this? Oh, we need your microphone on. We still can't hear you, Dominique.
Microphone is on.
Okay, we can hear you a little bit. Put the volume up.
Okay. This is the new iPad, so I'm hoping, can you hear me now?
I sympathize, but put the volume is, hang on.
You can't hear me?
It's very faint,
Hello?
so you can yell at us
You sound
today.
like a mouse.
You're allowed to yell.
Okay, I'll try yelling. How's this?
That's better.
Perfect.
Okay, this is the new laptop that this is the first time I've used it at home. I apologize.
Okay, well, tomorrow you can figure out where the volume button is.
Okay, I will just say that this report is to award the RFP to ERA Architects. So as mentioned in my report, I have spoken with them a few times, and although there was only one submission, I really believe that this company is very excited to work on this project, and I hope that council will agree and approve this award.
Thank you. Does council have any questions? Councillor Adams, do you have a question?
Yeah. Do they know what they're getting, or are they getting a lot of input into it as far as for the architect? Or do you have any ideas that they want for the architect? Or is it all just people coming in to say what they want as far as their new needs? And because we just did that renovation not that long ago. And is any of that part going to change, or?
So hopefully you can still hear me. So the last renovation was really for accessibility, to meet the accessibility standards. This is actually more to meet the needs of the community. So a big part of this is to get the input from our community members.
Just to reiterate, this RFP is not designing a building. it is doing the public consultation leading up to what might change. And as you may not have heard, Dominique, the previous renovation focused on the accessibility requirements under Ontario law and the removal of some asbestos. It did not really renovate the building for community needs. So this RFP is to now start to, what'll I say, put a scope on what the community and its programming needs.
Finishing touches.
Well, no, it's more than finishing touches. What does the community need and want, and what will be the programming over the next 20, maybe 30 years? Councillor Finson.
Just briefly, I wanted to help Dominique out there with I was going to tell you about the accessibility. That was from the Ontario government. The funding was provided by them. It was to make sure that the building was accessible. The building isn't really functional. It's not functional, not like the other recreation places in the community. It's not functional. The kitchen's downstairs. The elevator's fine, but it takes you 27 trips by the time you get anything up that elevator. It's all cold. So it just doesn't function very well. So the RFP was to, the building will be 100 years old in 2024. So it was built in memory for First World War I veterans. That's why it was built. It was built by the community for the community, and the community is having a hard time using that facility because it's not set up to be used properly. So what this RFP will do, we'll do a master plan on how to get to that community hall being used as it should be used and keep the integrity of the building, because there's historical value in that building. It's the only historical building that the township owns, I believe, of that magnitude. So we'd like to keep the integrity of the building and the memory of the veterans and keep them all in mind when the renovations are being done. So that's their job, is to say, this is how it would be more functional, and this is how we could do it and keep the integrity of the building. One of the things we need in that building is washrooms that are accessible, right? Not the little porta potty in the yard with a wheelchair ramp, a bathroom that opens from the outside and people can go in and go to the bathroom in a building. I mean, a beautiful town, a beautiful memorial park with a porta potty in the back. So that was one of the things that will be on a list of how we can incorporate that these young people that are going to do the RFP. It's very exciting to me because they sound so enthusiastic. They sound as enthusiastic as the architect who came to explain to us. His father was the architect, and it was just a really wonderful presentation. It's a beautiful building, and I think it deserves to be preserved in the best way possible. Anyway, thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Bazinski.
Thank you. I was wondering, in this report, will there be capital cost estimates? And if not, do we have to hire another consultant to provide us with those capital cost estimates? And then the second part of my question would be timing to do any of the renovations. I'm presuming we'll do this the concept this year, and maybe the timing for the construction would be next year.
Dominique, did you hear that question? I think CAO. Oh, I'm not sure.
Can you hear me?
Little bit.
Oh, it's very sorry. I'm very sorry about my volume. I can't find where to turn it up any higher. I did hear the question. So part of the RFP will be looking at the financial aspect and what the cost will be. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Dominique, maybe Jason can answer, as he knows exactly what you're talking about.
And to say,
Thank you, Your Worship. Hopefully my volume's a little bit better for everybody, and we'll work on Dominique's technical challenges first thing in the morning. The scope of work certainly does call for a capital plan, timing, financial planning on the back end. So what you'll see is an estimate of capital costs in sort of today's dollars once the project's complete, and the timing so that we can inform our capital planning, our capital budget into the future. Hopefully that helps answer your question, Councillor.
Thank you.
Councillor Collins.
Thank you, Mayor. I just, this is for my my colleague, Gail. In the last Reno renovation, that there was new washrooms put in downstairs, partial new kitchen downstairs, whole new library downstairs, and a assembly room beside the library after the asbestos was removed, like all new walls and everything. So there has been a lot of renovations, including putting in the wheelchair ramp and the elevator. So there has been extensive work done in that building already. So that's all I have to say.
Thank you very much. We have a motion on the floor to proceed with the staff recommendation to hire ERA architects. Could I have all in favor, please? Thank you, and that's carried. We move on to 7G, and I think we're calling on Michelle to give us the financial update.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Yes, this is my regular monthly financial update for council's information. Our surplus is up very slightly from October. We are starting to see the end of some programs, so we should have some better projections towards the end of the year. But if council has any specific questions about any of the details, I'd be happy to answer them.
Are there any questions for Michelle? Okay, moving on, I will ask her to move to 7H, which is the service level change proposals. Well, there are 3 outlined in the agenda package, and I think she's going to talk most specifically about 2 of them.
Thanks again. Yes, part of the budget process is for staff to bring service level change proposals to council's attention. The draft budget that is currently being worked on is a status quo budget. It does not include any new programs. It doesn't include new staff. This is where staff get to bring their recommendations to council. There's 3 this year, 1 from Forrest on climate change, 1 from Dominique on community service staff, and then another 1 from Public Works. These are all staffing issues. The effect on the operating budget is provided, as well as the effect on the tax rate of those expenses. Tom, Forrest, and Dominique are all here, so if council has any questions about the specific proposals, I'm sure they'd be able to answer any of those questions.
Just so we're following protocol, I'm going to read the motion and then we'll take questions. I have a motion that as per the recommendation of staff report number TR-2022-015, with copy of attached as Schedule A to this resolution, the Council of the Corporation of the Township of Seguin does hereby approve the climate change and community service level change proposals and direct staff to include the related budget impacts in the 2023 draft budget. Could I have a motion to put this on the floor from Councillor Getty?
I so move.
And seconded by Councillor Fellner.
I'll second that, man.
Okay, I see a question from Councillor Bazinski.
Yes, I'm just looking at, Michelle had talked about the status quo, so I'm presuming that it would be our operating costs from this year plus a cost of living adjustment. If we add new staff positions, like we have to look at what the impact would be on taxes to add this number of new positions. And I have a bit of a concern because I know I was hearing from a number of residents in my ward that they're having a tough time. And I know in Seguin, there are people using food banks and so on and so forth. So I just wanted to find out, maybe from Michelle, if you took these proposals for additional staffing, cumulatively put them all together And then all the support that would be required, such as the new equipment in the township, for the public works employees, et cetera, et cetera. What kind of a tax increase is that?
I will direct you to page 201. You can see the tax rate effect of the first two of the service level changes, 0.26% and 0.48% as laid out on page 201.
So, sorry, Mayor, does that mean 4.8% and 2.6%? So that would be a tax increase of over 7%?
No, a quarter for the climate change, it's 0.25%. And for the community service full-time staff, it's essentially 0.5%, 0.48% of one. Is that correct, Michelle?
That's correct.
And then for the public works as well, and also the new equipment that would have to be purchased?
There is no new equipment recommended in these service change agreements, and the public works, both options are there for your information only. They're not recommended as stated in the council package.
But however, if you hired the new staff, would you not need the new equipment as well?
The recommendation in the report is to implement the climate change and the community service proposals, not to implement the public works proposals at this time.
But will we be addressing those?
They will have to be addressed. I believe Tom can speak to his proposal.
It's just that when you look at it, like I guess the point I'm trying to make is that you can take each one and look at each one on an individual basis, and they don't seem significant. But when you put it all together, all of these new proposals on a cumulative basis, you're looking at a few percent increase in taxes. And then we still have to deal with the cost of living adjustment for staff and other issues. And I'm just concerned about how high the tax rate for this year might go, and especially if we may be potentially going into a recession, which is going to hit residents in Seguin hard. And should we be doing this year or deferring it to next year? I have no problem with the proposals. They're well written and justified, etc. But it's just a question of what is that tax impact going to be on our residents in Seguin Township? And I think it may be severe at the end of the day. Thank you.
I'm going to ask the CAO to reply to you.
Thank you, Worship, and Councillor Brzezinski. Just to be clear, what we've identified is three different, frankly, it's actually four different proposals that are in front of you. Public Works has provided two different options. And while we recognize that we have a number of challenges with this year's budget coming with inflation and cost of living where it is, and the potential of a recession on the horizon, what the administration is recommending is that two of the three proposals, with the third one having two options, only two of them be approved this year. And to answer your question, the Public Works one would be something that council would reconsider in 2023 for the 2024 budget, with it being obviously identified as a need. However, we would maintain the status quo with Public Works through 2023. The cumulative impact represents about 0.75% or about $100,000, just rounding off some numbers there, on the overall 2023 tax rate, given $35,000 impact for the climate change and $64,000 for the community services staffing. There is no additional fleet or any other equipment identified for those positions at this time. Whereas if council chose to accelerate the Public Works positions, you would see not only those operating impacts, but capital impacts of upwards of $180,000 for equipment. But again, the administration is not recommending at this point in time the Public Works move forward. What we are recommending is that the climate change and community services positions advance, primarily because there's been a number of for lack of a better term, master planning exercises that have taken place with respect to those two different portfolios over the last number of years that recommend those positions so that we can continue to deliver the services. But all in all, we're talking about approximately $100,000 financial impact on this year's, or on the 2023 operating budget, representing about 0.75%.
Councillor Finson.
And my question is, what is the expected tax increase? And that 0.75%, I know how much it equals out to. Can you tell me, Michelle, what you think the increase for 2023 will be?
We don't have.
You don't. Well, all I'm worried about is sort of,
yeah.
it's sort of on the same lines. I understand it's only 0.75, but it's another, it's $100,000. Like every time we do something, I know that's usually where my head goes, is 1% for 100,000. So if, for instance, we end up with a 5, like I have feelings it's going to be higher this year because I know everything is higher. So I don't feel comfortable having a 6% tax increase. I don't. Like I'm saying, can we vote on it when we kind of have an idea? I don't know. Like I wouldn't mind. I think it's great. I think it's a necessity because it's a recommendation, but maybe Jason can help me. But I just don't know what the impact will be. And I'm afraid to say yes, and then worry about like another 0.75% on top of what we have to do. Like we don't have a choice to do. And I know that's coming. And so anyway, maybe you can answer me, Jason, just curious.
I certainly wouldn't want to take the thunder from Michelle with respect to what the end dollar amount is, but in fairness, we are still working on what that end tax rate increase might be. What this report is seeking direction from council on is whether you would like to see these positions included or not. Of course, there'll be an opportunity again once the final budget numbers are in front of you, that if the number isn't palatable, or if we've come in too high, that you can direct us to retract some of those implementations. And
that was in a weird way my question.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was my question, and I didn't state it well, but thank you. Thank you.
Councillor Getty.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. A couple of things. I agree with both of the councillors that have spoken. I think that it would be naive to think that no matter what we do, we're going to be forced to have a substantial tax increase this year. Just the township costs have increased just the same as everybody else that's running a household. So I think that although I agree with Mario's statement that all of these positions are important, all of these positions in a different time would be very welcome. I think that at this time, from my position, the only one that I would consider would be eliminating the winter temporary position and making it a full-time position. That then addresses some of the issues that Tom has in his staffing levels. But I think that the two positions aren't coming forward anyway. My other issue with the climate change coordinator, although I think moving forward, it's something that we should be looking at and promoting. I think that one of the concerns that I had in the proposal that I see, it is a very vague job description. It talks about overseeing and administering. My question, I would like more clarification on it. If and when we do consider it, what are the real meat and potatoes of what that position is going to do? And if we are going to move forward with somebody in that position, should we then be revisiting as a council, looking at taking care of administering our own septic applications if we're going to be responsible for inspections of them? So I throw that out, but from a financial point of view, I think it would be naive to think that we're not going to have a substantial increase anyway. And I think it is important to be supportive of the staff that we have here now so that we can retain them, move forward, and when we're on a stronger financial foot, that we can look at these positions in the future. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Adams.
My iPad or laptop froze on me. so community services looking for one staff member, right? Is that part of what we're talking about?
That's correct.
That's combining the plowing and the trails together.
I believe that's correct. Yeah, that's the recommendation.
That's something that should have been done a while back. I would almost think that would be two positions myself because the trails themselves need a lot of work. They've been not really neglected, but there's a lot of work to be done on them. And they also have to be groomed all winter. I don't believe the township should be ever shortage of staff. I worked on the township and we always seem to be short of staff. Public Works is talking about two positions too, are they not?
Yes, but not this year. They're
Okay.
just-
I'm sorry, I lost it on my computer, so I'm just going from what I read before we come on. But I do agree with Public Works getting another position too. I agree on both of these. Sometimes when it comes to the work that needs to be done, I've always been a believer in cost should not really affect what has to be done. If it's going to be done in a safe way, everything we do we do it for the public. And I feel it shouldn't be an issue.
Thank you very much, Councillor Adams. I tend to agree with you that if our service improves, people are generally willing and happy to pay for it. Councillor Bazinski, I see you have your hand up, but you have to let the other councillors speak first. You've already spoken once on this item, so Councillor Fellner is next.
Thank you, Mayor. I think I tend to agree with the previous comments that each one of these positions, I think, they're good recommendations. I think what to Councillor Fitz's point, Councillor Wazinski is, what is going to be the overall implication of this new budget. And we know it's not going to be the same as that, the cost increases we've enjoyed the last 2 or 3 years. I don't see any issue with agreeing with the recommendation for the purposes of looking at the draft budget. But I would caution that if the majority of council agreed to that it's not a shoe-in. It's, throw it in, we'll have a look. But, if the increase is not palatable, then they come out. I think they're both, if we're able to go forward with them, we should. And the Public Works, we're expecting higher standard of care to our roads, and you're not going to achieve that without more staff. But again, this is a little different year, pretty crazy for everybody. So we don't want to burden the taxpayers more than necessary. And I tend to agree. People see value with what they're spending, then they're happy. If they don't see the value, well,
yeah.
So that would be my read on it. I'd be agreeable to putting them into the draft budget, but that doesn't necessarily in my mind mean it's a shoe-in. Thank you.
Thank you. I don't think it's final that we're deciding today. We're giving them structure to start to build a budget. Councillor Collins.
Thank you, Mayor. Michelle, is there any indication of the surplus at the end of this year, 2022?
According to the financial update that I just presented, around 182,000 right now.
All right, thank you.
Councillor Bazinski. One
Yes,
last
thank
point
you.
on this, and then Councillor Adams. Normally, we ask each councillor to speak once per topic.
Yes, and I'd just like to say that based on the discussion, I would agree that the positions could be put onto the budget list, but that doesn't necessarily mean that they go forward. Once we see what the final number is in terms of percent increase of taxes, then I think that's going to be the reality of where we have to make our decisions. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Adams, last comment on this issue.
Taxpayers expect more. They always expect more every year. So they got at some point expect a little more of an increase if they want the service. That's all I can say.
Thank you very much. We have a motion on the floor. All in favor? And that's carried. Thanks very much, Michelle. Well, this is clerk, I think. This is you, probably. I have a motion on the floor. A little bit of reading here. Whereas on the 14th day of January 2019, the Council of the Corporation of the Township of Seguin passed resolution number 2019-017, appointing Ingrid Mueller, Peter Croft, and Bruce Hatherley as Township of Seguin representatives on the Parry Sound Area Municipal Airport Commission. And whereas the commission is undergoing a governance and business model review, and council deems it expedient to continue the term of the representatives until the completions of that review. Therefore, be it resolved that the Council of the Corporation of the Township of Seguin does hereby extend the appointment of Ingrid Mueller, Peter Croft, Bruce Hatherley as Township of Seguin representatives on the Parry Sound Area Municipal Airport Commission until completion of and implementation of the governance business model review and new appointments have been made, or until June 30th, 2023, whichever occurs first. Could I have a motion from Councillor Collins to that effect?
I so move the motion, Mayor.
And seconded by Councillor Finson.
I second that.
All in favor? Thank you. The next one's kind of just for information, isn't it? The bias.
Wants to give us direction to prepare for future meeting. I don't know if council wants to commit themselves to a year, which is what they're asking. It's not just for 1 year.
Yeah, I'm assuming you've read page 219 of your budget package, which the biosphere is asking us to make November 3rd in perpetuity the International Day for Biosphere Reserves. Does council have any input to this request? No. I guess it's just for information that we read it. And by not passing this, I am assuming that the biosphere will come back to us like they did this year in advance of November 3rd and ask us if we'd like to do it next year. We don't have to do it in perpetuity. So we'll treat it that way. Tom, you're back on deck with some information on the Broad River Bridge rehabilitation. Do you want to tell us your perspective on it?
Sure. It's just a part of the environmental assessment process. The bridge is due for repair on the 141. So this is right at the Seguin Marina, just east of the transfer station in Humphrey here. Basically, they're just asking for comments from the township perspective. I don't see a lot besides maybe some staging and some right-of-way issues, but other than that, it's pretty standard, straightforward construction practice that I can see. I don't think there'll be any road closures, no detours. I don't foresee that happening. So yeah, here to answer any questions that I can help.
Councillor Getty.
The only thing that I'd ask that you could include when you're speaking to them or in any correspondence is that several people have reached out to ensure that there's still, during the renovations, there'll still be access for pedestrian traffic across the bridge. A lot of people use that bridge to access the mailboxes that are on the east side of the river. So when they're doing the renovations and the upgrading, if they can include some form of access for the public to be able to cross.
Okay, I'll reach out to Canada Post as well and make sure a plan is in place for that, because they'll be consulted as well during that whole thing.
Thank you.
Thank you. And we move on to, excuse me, bylaw.
Bless you.
I have a bylaw number 2022-143, being a bylaw to provide for a 2023 interim tax levy, to provide for the payment of taxes, and to provide for penalty and interest of 1.25% per month, is hereby deemed to have been read first, second, and third time and passed by council. Could I have a motion from Councillor Adams
I so move.
and seconded by Councillor Bazinski? And for those of you that are new, this is basically permission to get the first part of the tax billing out. Is that a hand up? No. Michelle, do you have anything to add?
No, I was just available in case any members of council had questions.
All in favor? Thank you. That's carried. And the next one's Michelle's as well. I have a bylaw number 2022-145, being a bylaw to write off taxes on properties in the Township of Seguin, is hereby deemed to have been read a first, second, and third time and passed by council. Could I have a motion from Councillor Getty
So move.
and seconded by Councillor Fellner?
I second that, Mayor.
All in favor? Thank you. And that's it. We go to council reports. How about we start with Ward 1 this time? So Councillor Adams, what have you been up to?
Well, on December the 1st, we all attended the orientation at Humphrey Arena. The presentation was great. Nigel, Fred, and Kelly did a great job. I enjoyed it thoroughly. December the 2nd, we all went to the staff Christmas party at the arena. It was great. December the 7th, I met with Terry Kalo. It's concerning that on Shawmax Drive about the rocks butting his property. December the 8th, I had my first Zoom meeting with the Barrie Sound Museum Committee. It was kind of an introduction just of myself, and I listened to how they did their meetings. December the 10th, I attended the breakfast with Santa at the Foley Hall, and it was a great turnout again. And I guess they haven't had it for a while. December 11th, I attended Santa Skate at the Humphrey Arena, and happy to see yet another great turnout. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Bazinski.
Thank you, Mayor. I, as all the rest of council, attended the orientation meeting. And the other social gathering, I attended the airport lunch last Friday. In addition to that, I have been talking to a number of my constituents just based on matters pertaining to the ward. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Councillor Getty.
Same with the training on the 1st of December and the staff Christmas party on the 2nd of December. On the 5th of December, I had a meeting with Brian Bobby from the Clear Lake Association in regards to ongoing environmental issues and concerns on that lake and the watershed. On the 7th of December, I had a meeting with Staff Sergeant Jeremy McDonald, who is the officer in charge of the Barrie Sound OPP. It was a very productive meeting. Look forward to moving forward. I think that there's a lot of information that's available from the OPP through the CAPC and eventually through a police services board that will be beneficial both to staff and to council. And I think moving forward, we'll be able to take advantage of a relationship to look at some targeted enforcement in regards to some of the traffic issues that we have around the township, and possibly set up some form of a complaint system that we can take to the OPP that is covered as part of their general patrol and not through the bill back process that they do for calls for service. And on the 8th of December, I had cybersecurity training with was beneficial as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Fellner.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. I attended the events previously, the training, the staff Christmas party, the work at the airport. I have an upcoming pool meeting this week. I've been doing a little bit with Park to Park. The last couple of weeks, we were able to redeck Bridge 9 on the Seguin Trail last weekend with volunteers from the local snowmobile club, and we're able to reopen that portion of the trail. It's been closed for about 6 weeks, I guess. And we're also rebuilding part of the trail west of the Nipissing Road at Seguin Falls to access one major water hole. And this work is being funded by the permits, Park to Park, and 50% with Trans-Canada Trails. So we're hoping that the money lasts to get us to the hole. We'll see. Other than that, the snowmobile clubs are pretty much ready to start taking over the trail. And we've got a couple access issues that we're going to try to work out over the next week or so. That's been what I've been up to.
Thank you. Councillor Collins.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. I attended that staff training meeting, the staff party, and the Christmas lunch at the airport. And that's it for 2022.
Thank you. Councillor Vincent.
You're quite welcome.
I also was at the orientation meeting, and I thought that the Indigenous part was quite wonderful. I learned a lot. There was a lot I didn't know, and I've discovered there's a lot I have to learn. The staff Christmas party was fabulous as usual. It was nice to get together with all the staff, and our table was pretty good. I think if my husband had come, we'd have won it all, Terry. We'd have won it all. He knew all the answers, we didn't. Anyway, but it was wonderful. I went to the Foley seniors lunch, took a few people from Rosso just to show them they've never been. So that was good. So now they know about it, and we will be trying to post the flyers on a regular basis. I've been speaking with some constituents, and mostly everything was handled, but some of it I'll have to deal with when I'm home next week. And next week also, I will be getting together with Belvedere Heights people to meet everybody, just meet and greet everybody on that committee. And that's about it. Thank you.
Thanks very much. So a lot of what I was at has been mentioned. December 1st was a pool fundraising meeting, and starting later this week, White Squall in Perry Sound will be selling the pool t-shirts in children's and adult sizes. So if you need Christmas gifts, we want as many people in the community wearing them as possible. And there will be a way to order them online as well, but White Squall will be carrying them now. I attended the seniors Christmas lunch in Foley, which was a full turkey dinner. And that same day, the library Christmas tea. The 8th was the cybersecurity session. The 9th, the airport commission meeting, followed by the lunch that many of you attended. And on the 10th, I was one of the servers at Breakfast with Santa, and I got an email this morning saying that 240 breakfasts were served, making it a record day. We did run out of sausages, but it was packed. We had 3 full sittings in 2 hours. Rosso Lake College that afternoon, also, I attended their Christmas concert and tea. And it was really well attended. It used to occur. It stopped because of COVID and differing headmasters, but I think it'll become an institution. And then yesterday, skating with Santa. Councillor Adams was at both that and the breakfast with Santa. He better be on the good list because he's got a lot of grandchildren that he was with him at both the events. And just to put a flag on everybody's calendar, we are looking at Thursday, January 12th to be an all-day orientation with the morning would be our integrity commissioner, if we can book her, and the departmental orientation. Does anybody have a conflict that the 12th would not work for? Oh, Councillor Fellner.
Yes, I have a conflict. I will not be here on the 12th. I think I'm gone from the 9th to the 20th.
9th to 20th, Councillor Fellner. Could you attend by Zoom?
I could possibly attend by Zoom. I think that maybe the internet might be strong enough. I'm not.
Okay, well, I'm not the booker. I'll leave it with our CAO and our clerk to see what can be arranged. Everybody else is okay with that date? Okay, just keep it open if you don't mind. Okay, so we are moving to closed. No, okay. I have a motion that the Council of the Corporation of the Township of Seguin does hereby receive the correspondence as presented on the agenda and the addendum for December 12th, 2022 meeting of council. Could I have a motion from Councillor Collins?
I so move your motion.
And seconded by Councillor Finson.
I second that.
All in favor? Thank you. And I have a motion that the Council of the Corporation of the Township of Seguin does hereby proceed to a closed meeting at 6:22 p.m. in order to address matters pertaining to a proposed or pending acquisition or disposition of land by the municipality or local board. And that's related to 138 Island View Road, the security of property of the municipality or local board relating to our information systems, and personal matters about an identifiable individual, including municipal or local board employees. And that's related to planning consultant and the cost of living adjustment and labor relations or employee negotiations, again, related to the 2023 cost of living adjustment. Could I have a motion from Councillor Adams to move into closed?
I so move.
And seconded by Councillor Bazinski.
I second that.
All in favor? Thank you. Okay. Yeah, just give us a couple minutes till we get the technology. Can staff leave? Michelle? Oh, Taylor.